we go for episode 2. We're back with using our weightlifting ratio sheet and using it to help us figure out how to program for someone. So let's get recording on here. All right, so let's take a look at their ratios. This is a very typical, slightly more advanced person. They have a 180 kilo back squat. They are strong in the squat. They've got clean is way down, 124. Front squat's down, 135. Okay, snatch is down, 103. Muscle snatch is down. Power snatch is up. Snatch deadlift strong. Okay, so this person here is this is what I'd call a strong back person. So anything sort of bending over and picking it up, they're looking really good at. Now I know you might think, oh, but their back squat's pretty strong. Without a video, we can just assume this is probably a bit more of a high bar deadlift type of back squat. And I'll say that because the front squat is lagging at 135. So if it was a more squatty squat, more upright, more legs loaded, weightlifter style, their front squat would be looking somewhere around 160. It is hella short of that. So with that, and in conjunction with their deadlift being over where you'd expect it by 10, 12, 14 kilos, not that much by 4 kilos, but still over, and everything else, power snatch being up relative to snatch. This is a backy person, okay? This is someone who bends over, picks stuff up, and they're strong as hell, but their legs probably aren't doing the work that they should be, which is why the front squat's where it is. And also with the snatch and muscle snatch, so this is quite a typical one as well. People whose power snatch are really close to their snatch. There's always going to be some sort of technical deficiency there in terms of their movement, but also the power snatch to snatch, we want a bit more of a gap between those. You should have much more time to get under the bar. You should be able to explode using those legs much more to give you that time. If you're super bent over, you're using too much of your back, you're not using much of your legs, it's going to be a swingy rep, and then we start to see this short gappage between the power snatch and the snatch, which we've got here 6, 7, 8, 9 kilos between them. They should be snatching 114. Actually, no, if you went off their back squat, they should be snatching 117, they're snatching 103. This is actually very typical of lots of sort of more than intermediate, but not super advanced male CrossFit guys. They're sort of between like 4 to 8 years. They get stuck around the 100 kilo snatch. Other stuff gets strong. This is where the way you do something is so important. Seeing this, I can picture these people in my head. They just grind their way through their strength stuff, which is obviously, they can get strong like that, but they've got super back strong. Okay, so let's go into their considerations and what a week of their workout's going to look like based on those numbers. We need to get their muscle snatch up. Without a doubt, getting the muscle snatch up is going to get the full snatch up. It's going to improve the sequencing of using legs to arms, stronger turnover. It's going to put them in a better position and force them to use their legs more. Squat strength, front squat needs to go up big time. So that needs to be a huge factor, but not just going up. It needs to go up the right way. We don't want to be grinding through backy front squats. And then back squat positional work. So again, they've got a super strong back squat, it's 180, and they've got over strong deadlift, in fact, than some of the other pulling motions. But I'm going to imagine this is a hunched over style squat. We need to get this person upright and getting more leg drive based on the numbers. It's easy to base that. Okay, they want roughly 3 sessions a week. They're already doing 6 to 7 sessions of their classes or programming by the looks of it, and this will be the strength section as part of their full workout. Okay, so they're going to be doing 6 to 7 sessions a week. 3 of those days are laid out already, so we're not going to be touching those. The 3 days that I am putting in, they've also got other stuff on that day. Not so, I'm assuming not weightlifting or snatch or this related. So again, we can't just be overloading. It has to be concise and it has to be helpful for them. So we don't want to be wasting any energy on doing things that just aren't going to help. And again, like I said, It is so important the way you do things, and the way that you program, the movements you choose, the reps, the styles, the notes you put in there make a massive difference, especially at this stage when people are getting up towards the advanced. You need to start tidying up those gaps. Okay, so starting off with some muscle snatches. This is a big priority for them. A bit of a descending rep scheme, so we can start throwing some weight on 6 sets, 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3. Heavy as possible with each set, with a focus on legs, then arms. Getting a video of every set and resting as needed in between. Getting a video of every set is really important. I can't overstate how important it is. If I'm working with these people, this cannot be done blind. You can't be snatching for a year wrong. I always recommend, if I get these people, go in person, get immediate feedback. That is number one. If you can't do that, okay, send me the video. Next, some hang snatches. We've given them 4 triples, performing sets at heavy but not max, between 70 and 80%. Can fluctuate, just needs to be a working weight. The hang is mid-thigh. This is really important for someone who's backy. They're bending over a lot. They like to use their back and not their legs. We want to limit how much they can use their back. So a mid-thigh forces them to keep their chest up, and it's not allowing them to get that bend over to use the back and use their backside muscles to sling it up. We really want to force them to use their legs. So that's why it's going to do that. Forcing a bit more rest in between the sets now, 2 to 3 minutes, just so they're not, rushing backwards and forwards, trying to get the sets done. We want them to be heavy and we want them to be good, and recording 1 or 2 sets ideally. Moving on to some front squats, that is a big priority. 3 sets of 5, starting on the lower end so we can build 7 to 8 out of 10 effort. Nothing too magical about that. It's standard procedure. That's going to be the priority. But we've got some notes. Keep your hips under your shoulders as much as possible throughout the lift and record 1 set. Very generic cue for someone who's probably too tilted over. There could be a whole host of reasons as to why this person's tilted over. They could have mobility stuff that needs addressing. They could have a stance issue. Right now, it's just a bit of a blanket, educated-ish guess based on their numbers. If I had a video, I could show it would be different, but we'll get into that another day. And then supplementing that, a narrow stance back squat. Love the narrow stance back squat. Forcing those feet, sort of 6 inches apart, maybe a bit wider if they need to, forces you to use your quad. So if you are someone who gets really tippy, using your lower back and your backside too much for your squat work, narrow stance, it could be front squat or back squat. This time we're going for the back squat. Really beneficial tool. So 3 sets of 10. Same for the effort and the rest. 7 to 8 out of 10 effort, resting 2 minutes between. Again, hips under the shoulders, record 1 set. Really good for going after their quad stuff there. Wednesday, what I didn't want to do is just go snatch, snatch, snatch. There's a good chance there's not much room to improve, and they're probably going to be doing some other higher work stuff around the shoulders between the rest of the week. So what we don't want to do is just suddenly give them 3 dynamic overhead days, and then in a month's time they're like, I'm injured. We want to avoid that. Okay, so we've got a deficit snatch pull, 4 sets of 3 reps, 7 to 8 out of 10 effort, resting 2 to 3 minutes between. Deficit, so they're standing on a plate. This is, again, it's going to drop their hips lower, force them to use their legs more. So a constraints-based approach, focusing on leading the lift with the chest rather than letting your hips shoot up first. Again, this is another reason, just the same reason why it's so important to know what you're programming for the person. You put in a regular snatch pull for this person who shoots their hips up, you're just going to make them stronger at shooting their hips up. You could add 15 kilos to that snatch pull, snatch deadlift, whatever, and the snatch doesn't improve. Maybe even gets worse. They get more swingy. Really important. And then into a deficit snatch deadlift. So we've gone from slightly more dynamic into slightly more basic strength. Really trying to push it. Descending rep scheme again, 5, 4, 3, 2. You're going to be increasing the weight every set. Same deficit. These are now touch and go, but still trying to focus on leading with the chest rather than letting the hips shoot up first. So we've gone from slightly faster stuff to slightly slower. Really trying to build in positional strength in this new way of moving for them. That's it for the Wednesday. Again, leaving yourself room to grow is still a lot. 8 sets. People might look at this and be like, oh, it's only 2 movements. 8 sets is a lot of work, okay? And these people, when you're at this stage, you're starting to get stronger. The answer is not just tons of volume, okay? It's high quality, very focused work. That's what's going to help drive those improvements. And then on the Friday, we've got deficit snatches, Bit more of a primer now. 4 sets of 4 reps, 50 to 60% of 1RM, same deficit that we used on Wednesday, and again with the note of leading with the chest. This is to just, again, get them focused on using the legs before putting them back onto the floor. So it's 4 sets of those, and then into some regular snatches where we get to do some heavier work, and we're trying to ingrain these new feelings, okay? A bit of a pyramid, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, trying to make them heavy, but not max. We're leaving some room to grow, but we do want to keep touches on those heavier weights. We don't just want to take them out completely. So rough guidelines of 75, 85, 90%, and then going back down the same way. Again, same cue, leading with the chest. And then after that, some front squats, 10s, high on the rep scheme, but we've got some notes in here. No pausing at the top of the rep or standing to full extension. Keep pressure on your quads throughout. And then again, underneath that, keep your hips under your shoulders and recording a set. This style of front squatting, 10s, high reps, so we're going to be driving some very specific muscle growth for the position that we want. We don't necessarily just want to go after low reps, high weight, high intensity when there's a pattern that they're already exposed to. We're looking to change the pattern. One of the best ways we can do that is try layer in some new muscle to help support that position that they're not very strong in already. So we don't just want to go straight after the low rep, high load approach. So we've flipped it around, building from that, and this is just going to get some, pretty savage pump work on the quads, but it is going to help build some strength necessary so that later down the line we can turn that into real strength when those reps come down. Okay, so that's it for this person. This week number 1 that I would give them. Going on from there, I'd keep trying to push up this upright theme. Hopefully I'd get some videos back which confirm what I was assuming based on their numbers, and this concise approach to their strength for improving their weightlifting for CrossFit is really what I recommend. If you have any questions, or you're someone similar to this, or there's something you'd like to see, just let me know. I'll see you next time.